Tonight, a roadmap promise after a shock Delta spike. The Premier says we will reopen. Victoria's mandatory jab battle. Bosses facing big fines for unvaccinated workers. MPs set to be banned from Parliament. The hunt for drivers wanted over savage road rage attacks on our streets. 2 fighting for life after a crash at Flemington. A murder probe into a crash at Truganina. A shock petrol price hike. The cost of filling a family car tops $100. And a critical test to fast-track the return of sporting crowds.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. The Premier is promising Melbourne will reopen next week, despite an alarming spike in the number of COVID infections. Victoria recorded a pandemic record 2,297 new cases, almost half aged under 30.
Walking through Sunshine Hospital's intensive care unit, you see patients in their own COVID bubbles and you hear what it does to their breathing. Doctors say this is where some of today's record 2,297 cases will end up, and it'll mostly be unvaccinated people. Perhaps 1 or 2 weeks from now, around the same time Melbourne reopens.
The position of the government is clear, the science is clear, the data is clear, and that's why we're opening up next week, because Victorians have done an amazing job getting vaccinated in record numbers, in record time.
But what effect do shock case numbers like today have on our reopening?
There's no way that I could possibly hope to look at one day's numbers and say, OK, so this is what this means for the roadmap.
11 more Victorians with COVID have died. 706 are in hospital tonight. That's within modelling guidelines. But the big driver of transmission, young people last in line for vaccines. 46% of today's cases are 30 or younger.
The hospitalisation proportion remains low, and that's partly because of the youth of the cases involved, partly through vaccination, which is continuing to increase.
62.6% of Victorian adults are fully vaccinated.
I hope next week when we get to that 70% level, we can reward Victorians with something more that's on that roadmap.
There's no suggestion home visits or renovations will be allowed before we hit 80%, likely November 1. In the first 21 months of the pandemic, up to September just gone, Victoria recorded 26,000 COVID cases. In just the past month, we've more than doubled that, 33,700 cases in 4 weeks. That makes Victoria's total almost 60,000, quickly gaining on New South Wales with more than 70,000.
It's an incredible demand upon us to have a single condition occupying 12 out of our 13 beds.
Today's number not lost on former opposition leader Michael O'Brien, poking fun at the Premier with a photoshopped cake in reference to the original picture toasting a donut day of 0 cases a year ago. A pop-up vaccine site has opened in Casey to counter further virus spread in our southeast. 1,245 new Victorian households have been infected. A record day in a bad way, but the roadmap holds solid.
We are so close to being 70% double dose vaccinated, then 80%, and that means the Victorian community will have done their job.
There is some COVID relief for Year 12 students and their parents tonight. Blake Johnson joins us now, and Blake, isolation rules are changing just in time for VCE exams.
Pete, Year 12 students who become close contacts of a positive case can still sit their VCE exams, but just in a different classroom to other students. If they are vaccinated, they only have to isolate for a week, get tested every second day. If they are unvaccinated, VCE students must isolate for the full 2 weeks. COVID positive Year 12s unfortunately will not be able to sit their written exams and will receive a derived mark from the rest of the year's work. And if a school becomes a COVID exposure site, the response will vary from school to school.
It'll be closed for a very, very short period of time, around a day or so, and that's to do a deep clean of the affected areas, identify the primary close contacts, and then get most students back as soon as possible.
Kensington Community High School is one of 49 Victorian schools that have been recently closed by COVID. Rapid antigen tests will be introduced at some schools in a trial, and the air purifiers are on their way too, but we learnt today many schools won't see them until next year. Pete?
Blake Johnson at Kensington, thank you. Victorian bosses are facing big fines from tomorrow if they're caught with unvaccinated workers. And in an Australian first, we're about to become the first state to ban unvaccinated politicians from entering Parliament, despite last-minute opposition from a defiant Liberal MP.
Employers of authorised workers are on notice. If their staff turn up unvaccinated tomorrow, they face fines of $21,000.
With the greatest respect to every single Victorian across the state, right? I know, but it's not a tough conversation. Get vaccinated. Get vaccinated.
Vaccination is also mandatory for MPs. And while Forest Hill MP Neil Angus is adamant he's not an anti-vaxxer,
the result of the Premier's announcement on the 1st of October this year is that medical apartheid will be commencing in Victoria in a few days' time. Victoria will be a two-class society.
Mr Angus is the only Liberal Party member who hasn't had the jab.
I'm standing here for the many thousands of Victorians who are about to lose their jobs tomorrow as a result of exercising their conscience and their free choice.
But when it came to voting on a vaccine mandate for MPs,
all of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it.
I have certainly had a personal conversation with him, no doubt about that. But, you know, I'm not about berating people. When it comes to vaccinations, my point of view is clear. Educate people. Look at our intensive care wards. Liberal
Democrats David Limbrick and Tim Quilty are vaccinated, but oppose the state government's mandatory stance and have refused to hand over their certificates.
Members of Parliament shouldn't have dictated on them which type of medical procedures they have before they can become democratic representatives.
MPs who can't prove that they've been vaccinated will have their security access revoked and they'll be banned from entering Parliament.
You know, it's all fine for some to be in here running theoretical debates using completely inappropriate language. The position of the government is clear, the science is clear, the data is clear.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
And now a look at the state of play in Victoria tonight. On a record day of almost 2,300 cases, we're at 87.1% first doses and 62.6% of all Victorians aged over 16 are now fully vaccinated. We're set to hit 70% in 8 days on October the 22nd and 80% on Monday, November the 1st. There is an urgent police appeal tonight for help to track down road rage drivers linked to 2 separate horror crashes in Melbourne. We have crime reporters tracking both investigations. First to Tegan Doling at Flemington. Tegan, a wild pursuit could have deadly consequences.
Mitch, 3 men were taken to hospital. One of them is still in a serious condition after their BMW come off the road and it slammed into a pole. Now, detectives are investigating if that car was in fact forced off the road and they're appealing for the driver of a black Commodore station wagon to come forward. A delicate rescue mission to free 2 men trapped in a crumpled BMW. Paramedics formed a makeshift triage, treating the driver and front seat passenger for half an hour. The car had been speeding when it slammed into a pole. Now it's the job of detectives to work out why.
It's a high impact collision. The car itself was basically bent in half. So we know that speed would have been a factor here at the time of the collision.
We just heard what sounded like the vehicles going past really fast.
The black BMW is captured on security vision racing down Mount Alexander Road in the rain shortly before midnight. A black Commodore station wagon follows dangerously behind. Police say it tailed the BMW across the Balti Bridge and down CityLink.
We know certain particulars of that car to be able to identify that driver. Better if you come and see us first and give us your version of the events.
A third man walked away from the BMW wreck. He's told detectives road rage sparked the dangerous pursuit.
He said that they followed for some distance and he didn't know or didn't recognise the driver of the other vehicle.
Police now need the public's help to piece together the story. Tegan Doling, 7 News.
And now to Cassie Zervos. Cassie, the homicide squad has released crucial footage to help solve a teenage road tragedy.
Well, Mitch, the Vision provides new information as detectives try to piece together the key moments leading up to a shocking crash in Truganina that claimed the lives of 4 young men.
Boxed in by 3 cars, 6 young men inside this silver sedan are ambushed by armed thugs in a road rage attack with deadly consequences.
There's hundreds and hundreds of people that will be impacted by this. So very, very sad set of circumstances.
Their only escape was to reverse and speed off on the wrong side of the road. Minutes later, 4 teenagers were killed. Their car allegedly rammed into the path of an oncoming truck.
We've got 7 people who have been seriously injured, 4 of those fatally.
Including Kevin Manning, his auntie paying tribute to a life cut short.
You just left us in so pain.
They were 15 through to 17. They are only young.
Detectives want anyone involved in the September 30 road rage attack to get in contact with them.
The homicide squad is working very, very closely with our major collision investigation detectives.
As 4 grieving families try to find answers for their loss.
Rest in peace, Kevin.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Melbourne motorists could soon be paying more than $100 to fill up their family car. Estelle Griepink is tracking developments, and Estelle, we're in the grip of a petrol price surge.
Well, Mitch, the prices here at this servo in Brunswick West are almost at $1.84, but prices could get even higher. Some experts are predicting we'll see them as high as $2 in the coming weeks. With 30 classic cars in his care, it pays for Eric Christopher to keep an eye on fuel prices. The rising cost of petrol making it less enticing to get out on the road.
To fill up one of these cars now, you need around $150.
Last week, the average price of petrol was just over $1.50. Today, the average price climbed to over $1.64.
Over the course of the next few days, we'll see prices on average in Melbourne probably hit around 170 cents a litre, which would be close to a record high.
The blame lies with record prices on the global oil market.
Going forward, if we continue to see oil prices lift, we may certainly see petrol prices eventually hit around $2 a litre.
Take one of Australia's most popular family cars, the Toyota RAV4. At $2 a litre, that's $110 to fill your tank.
We genuinely are concerned that the worst is yet to come.
And that would mean higher prices just as we get out of lockdown.
We want people spending money in the local economy, not at the Bowser.
Incomes are non-existent at the moment. It's definitely something that people will think about twice before they take the car out.
Estelle Griepink, 7 News.
The Australian Navy has grounded its fleet of Seahawk helicopters after one of the aircraft crashed into the Philippine Sea overnight. Boats from HMAS Brisbane quickly rescued the 3 crew who suffered only minor injuries. Australia still has 23 Seahawks, but we've just ordered a dozen more from the US in a deal worth $1.3 billion. A corruption probe into the Victorian Labor Party has claimed another scalp, with federal MP Anthony Byrne quitting as Deputy Chair of Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee. The member for Holt admitted to branch stacking on the opening day of the IBAC hearing. Almost all of the Australian jobs lost in the past month have been here in Victoria, some people even giving up on finding a job altogether. We're being told things will start to look up as we hit our vaccination targets and emerge from lockdown.
After 9 weeks of lockdown, Michael Cataldo is looking forward to firing up the hairdryers at his Canberra salon tomorrow.
We had, hundreds and hundreds of bookings that we've had to, reschedule.
COVID disaster payments have helped him hang on to his staff. His team among the 2.3 million Australians who've claimed the federal payments, so far totalling more than $11 billion.
It's been really good that the staff have been looked after.
But many haven't been so lucky. Delta saw another 138,000 jobs lost last month, 123,000 of those in Victoria, 25,000 in New South Wales, pushing the national unemployment rate up from 4.5 to 4.6%. The participation rate fell to 64.5%, a 15-month low.
This is not unexpected. This is a tale of lockdowns.
But predicting a big improvement as states reopen. Just not as fast as last year's recovery.
We might see a spike in cases and some of the reopening measures may have to be reversed to some degree.
With unemployment rising and around 1 million people still relying on job seeker payments to survive, Labor is warning now is not the time to be winding back government support.
Josh Frydenberg shouldn't be in a rush to leave so many workers and small businesses in this country behind.
These are emergency payments. And they can't be there forever, just like lockdowns can't be there forever.
Although for some, it feels like they have been. Rob Scott, 7 News.
Victoria's new vaccine passport has been put through its paces at the biggest sporting event the state has seen in months. The technology has been used to admit fans to a country race meeting as a test run for the Melbourne Cup.
A small event with big implications. This is the first sporting crowd in Victoria since July, helping to get the industry back on track.
It was absolutely wonderful.
Any tips for today?
Just my horse, I hope.
Today's Warrnambool race meeting was allowed to have a crowd of 300 after being included in a trial of the new vaccine passport. It's a test run for the system that will be used by 10,000 patrons at Flemington on Melbourne Cup Day.
First question we had to ask was, are our members double vaccinated? If they weren't able to continue on with their registration. We're happy we're doing it on a smaller scale. 300 is a really good number for us to be able to test today.
There were a few teething problems.
Yeah, I can get mine on, but I tried about 5 times for my wife to get her valid certificate onto the check-in app.
I had it all planned that I'd be able to just get in and it'd be quite easy, but no. I don't think they wanted me in here, maybe.
Since the service went live on Monday, almost 250,000 Victorians have linked their vaccine certificate to their Service Victoria app, including Melburnians. So they're ready to go the moment restrictions are lifted. The Minister is grateful to venues like the Racing Club taking part in the trial.
You know, they've subjected themselves to some risk, some risk of online abuse and things of that nature, but they're doing it for the greater good.
Georgia Commons-Solly, 7 News.
The Hawks have hit back over a trade period bust. Tim Watson there making no apologies.
Mitch, it's been a rocky start for Sam Mitchell. We'll hear from the Hawthorn camp shortly. Also, Jordan Clark in his new colours as the ex-Cat moves to clear the air. The Magpies dump a promising youngster with a big question hovering over Mason Cox, and Mitch, Alistair Clarkson has a new job, plus the Aussies dealt an early Ashes blow. I'll see you again soon.
OK, Tim, thank you very much. 2 Melbourne fans jailed for sneaking into Perth could be facing further consequences. Next, the fallout from one of the toughest penalties for breaching COVID restrictions. Also, why a cancer con woman has just copped more jail time. A Star Trek star becomes the oldest man in space alongside a new Australian mate. Sydney smashed by storms. Jane Bunn has details on wild weather heading to Melbourne. And later, groundbreaking treatment helping our tiniest babies. A serial con woman will spend more time in jail after being caught out in another lie. Hannah Dickinson was already behind bars for faking cancer and stealing thousands of dollars from friends and family. She's now been sentenced to an extra 4 months after admitting she faked a reference from a former manager and used it in court. She'll be released early next year. 2 Demons fans jailed for sneaking into Perth to attend the AFL Grand Final may also lose their jobs. Regulators are now reviewing the men's business licences.
No sympathy for these disgraced Demons jailed for 3 months.
If you don't want to get in trouble, abide by the law.
They admitted using documents falsified in Darwin to get into Perth. Victoria's liquor regulator confirms it will interview Hayden Burbank, who runs the Morris Jones bar. But liquor licence cancellations in such cases are rare.
But I would have thought the most relevant thing is how that person has run that premises.
Financial regulator ASIC also confirms it's looking into Mark Babbage's financial planning licence. Someone who's served time could possibly technically still maintain registration, but it would likely be difficult for them to comply with their ongoing obligations.
It's vital that the community have confidence in the character of those who hold the licences.
Next month, both men will appear before a Northern Territory court via video link to face charges relating to the allegedly fake documents.
I reckon when they got into the changing rooms after the game, they would have thought whatever punishment they might receive would be worth it. I reckon they might be rethinking that now.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Australia's drug regulator has approved 3 rapid COVID tests for use at home. The all-test brand kits will be available from November the 1st. 2 are saliva tests, the other is a nasal swab. Several more kits are still being assessed by the TGA. Decades after making his name playing a starship captain on TV, William Shatner has blasted off into space. The 90-year-old has become the world's oldest astronaut, with an Australian travelling beside him.
Hollywood's Captain Kirk returning to the hot seat.
Q1.
In a launch blurring lines between science fiction and reality. But this rocket, New Origin's New Shepard, not the USS Enterprise, and this view, real, not a TV set.
No description can equal this.
At 90, actor William Shatner, now the oldest ever astronaut, mesmerised his entire 4 minutes of weightlessness 100 kilometres above Earth.
This is nuts!
And by his side, Australian Dr. Chris Boschhausen.
Holy hell.
The Crew of 4's mission complete in just 10 minutes.
Standby touchdown.
The return of this capsule marks a significant step closer towards more accessible space travel, according to Blue Origin. Still, the price of this privileged perspective of the world remains well out of reach for most.
I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened. It's extraordinary. Extraordinary. I hope I never recover from this.
In Van Horn, Texas, David Woywood, 7 News.
Now back on Earth, Jane Bunn joins us now. Jane, that felt like a lot of rain overnight.
Mitch, the rain fell across Melbourne with 10 to 25 millimetres in the city and suburbs. Now we're up to 58 so far this month. That's just short of the average, only halfway through. While last night's rain cleared to sunshine today, Sydney was smashed by severe thunderstorms. Large hail hammered homes, cars in chaos in flash flooding. The radar showed signs of a tornado just as water poured through the ceiling into a crowded shopping centre. Melbourne's dry break is nearly over. There is a lot more rain to come tomorrow night and on Saturday. I'll have details on where it'll be heaviest. There we go, after sport, Mitch.
Thank you, Jane. We'll see you then. Scammers are targeting Victorians waiting for parcels to arrive in the mail, from bogus text messages to fake phone calls. How to avoid being ripped off, that's coming up. Also ahead, Twin Towers to soar, a bow and arrow used to kill a horror supermarket attack. Melbourne's Chloe McArdle, now officially the Queen of the English Channel, and why the health of your eyes could be suffering during lockdown. Scammers are targeting Victorians in lockdown with new text messages. They look like parcel delivery updates, but are designed to trick you and steal your money.
Stuck in lockdown and shopping online, Victorians have become sitting ducks for scam artists.
It's the perfect storm for them to ply their trade.
From across the globe, sophisticated criminals are sending millions of these texts, claiming to be about parcel deliveries from DHL, Amazon and Australia Post. But they're scams designed to steal our money.
They're after the 1% of people who may be unfortunately waiting for a parcel and think it's legitimate.
The texts ask you to click on a link.
It tends to mirror and take banking-related details if you're using banking apps. So that particular malware is very much focused on harvesting people's banking credentials and getting access to their bank accounts to withdraw money.
This year alone, the consumer watchdog has received more than 13,000 reports of SMS scams in Victoria, with $1.62 million stolen.
If you are around in society and you have a mobile phone, you are likely to get one of these messages.
Phone companies like Telstra are working to stop the scammers by blocking the text messages before they reach our phones. But not every scam can be intercepted, meaning we all need to remain vigilant with our own devices.
It's really important that customers remember that Australia Post will never contact them by text, call or email asking for personal or financial information or for a payment in exchange for a delivery.
Jodie Lee, 7 News.
New twin towers are set to soar high above Marvel Stadium. The buildings facing Gate 7 of the stadium are expected to include luxury apartments and function spaces, along with shops, cafes and a yoga deck. The AFL is confident shadows from the buildings won't affect the playing surface. A man armed with a bow and arrow has unleashed a deadly attack outside the capital of Norway. The suspect first opened fire inside a supermarket before moving onto the streets. 5 people were killed with at least 2 others injured, including an off-duty police officer. A 37-year-old Danish man was arrested. Tourists are packing potentially dangerous vantage points on the volcanic island of La Palma as the lava flow swallows even more homes. Spain's Prime Minister says there's no sign that the volcanic activity will end anytime soon. Melbourne Marathon swimmer Chloe McArdle is officially the Queen of the English Channel tonight. It's taken 12 years to clock up 44 swims, spending $500,000 of her own money to do it.
After another gruelling swim, Chloe McArdle walks the final few metres to French soil, her record-breaking effort complete. An Aussie conquering this famed stretch of water and now the new Queen of the Channel.
As you can tell, I don't drink much.
Now shake you.
It tastes sweet.
Absolutely amazing, surreal, but also it feels like my time.
A 34-kilometre haul in near-perfect conditions, apart from the 12-degree water. Chloe riding a wave of adrenaline for just over 10 hours.
There was not one point where I was bored or I wanted it to end.
Chloe had less than a week to recover from a sore neck she suffered during her 43rd swim. On the weekend, she was diagnosed with a chest infection, but there wasn't much that was going to stop her attempting this. At 36 years old, a retirement from channel swimming beckons.
I don't think that swimming one more English Channel crossing is going to make me feel any more happier, any more content or any more accomplished. So really happy with 44.
In the English Channel, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Well done, Chloe. Victorians could be facing irreversible and often preventable eye damage from missed sight checkups. New Medicare data has revealed tens of thousands of appointments have been missed.
Optometrists fear the pandemic is hurting our eyes. More than 200,000 missed eye tests between March 2020 and August this year.
I'm not prepared to compromise my eye health during the pandemic. I don't think anybody needs to.
50-year-old Faye Salem was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease 5 years ago.
My immune system cells attack my thyroid through inflammation. I get inflamed eyes, which causes irritation, it causes blurriness, and it affects my everyday, life.
The consequences of failing to act can be life-altering.
There's quite a lot of different eye conditions that can be missed very easily. So conditions such as glaucoma or other more sort of severe conditions that can lead to blindness.
Victorians are urged to book in that checkup now.
If you've got any changes in your vision, we encourage you to call up your optometrist.
Optometrists say around 90% of vision impairment and blindness can be prevented if the condition is detected early enough. Sarah Jones, 7 News.
Victoria's supply chains could be facing another curveball. Next, why a shortage of timber pallets has retailers nervous. Also, a potentially life-changing treatment for premature babies. A Bayside backlash over a high-rise development. And the Beatles, like you've never seen them before. Bayside residents have taken to the streets to protest against a massive 7-storey development in Hyatt. The Sunkin Property Group is planning to build more than 1,000 apartments spread over 15 towers.
It will be like dropping in a mini metropolis from outer space. It's just towers, residential towers. It'll be like a slice of the city just landed in suburbia.
Bayside City Council says the proposal is still being considered. Victorian traders are grappling with a major shortage of hardwood pallets. It's been driven by a global shortage of timber. The pallets are used to deliver almost everything, including groceries, liquor, toys and building materials. The shortage could lead to significant disruptions to national supply chains. Tech stocks have helped the ASX climb higher today. Here's finance editor Gemma Acton with a look at the markets.
Thanks, Peter. For the first time this week, the ASX 200 has delivered a positive close, adding 39 points to reach 7,312. Technology stocks and miners led the way, with shares in wealth manager Netwealth rising 15% after a bumper trading update. The Aussie dollar is inching higher. It's now buying 73.9 US cents, while iron ore pulled back a little bit overnight. And while the participation rate, showing how many people are working or looking for work, has now dropped to its lowest since June 2020, it's expected to rebound quickly as Australia emerges from lockdown. Peter.
Gemma Acton reporting. A groundbreaking trial helping premature babies adjust to life outside the womb will soon be rolled out in Victoria. It's described as cheap, simple and potentially life-changing.
Twin toddlers mean double the chaos and double the love.
Got a gift?
It's hard to imagine now, but River and Miles were born at just 27 weeks, rushed to neonatal intensive care.
We didn't hold them for 3 days.
Concerned about the constant lights and sounds of the ICU, the family leapt at the chance to be part of a groundbreaking sleep trial.
It was a pretty, I think, easy sell for this study because it was non-invasive.
The boys were fitted with tiny eye masks and earplugs at night to kickstart their circadian rhythms, which full-term babies develop in the 3rd trimester. Researchers hope setting babies' body clocks will boost brain development.
We're also looking at lots of other things like do they grow better? Do they sleep better? Will they have less risk of autism?
The cost of caring for a premature baby in the neonatal intensive care unit can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars using complex technology, but the masks are incredibly simple and cheap.
We estimate it's going to cost us about $60 per infant for the whole of their stay.
The trial's now rolling out to hundreds of babies around the country.
If you can give them a chance at a better outcome, then you want everything you can.
A tiny change that could make an enormous difference. Cyan Doherty, 7 News.
Half a century after they broke up, the Beatles are about to star in a new show documenting the band's final days. Hours of unseen video will feature in a new TV special called Get Back.
It was January 1969. A film crew was granted unprecedented access to the Beatles at work, the songs you know and what they could have been.
Looking for a what? What is it? Looking for a home to last. Looking for a blast from the past.
57 hours of intimate vision in the year leading up to their split. Candid moments of John and Yoko.
But it's going to be such a comical thing, like in 50 years' time. They broke up because Yoko sat on an M.
Linda McCartney, family and pressure.
The meeting was fine, but then it all sort of fell apart in the end.
The band has 3 weeks to write and record a new album. They haven't played live for 3 years.
I would dig to play on the stage, you know. Nobody else wants to do a show.
We should do the show in a place we're not allowed to do it. Getting forcibly ejected.
They did, and they almost were. Their final days, now a 3-part series at the hands of Oscar-winning director Peter Jackson.
The documentary just grinding to a halt.
Grinding to a halt, I think it's taking off.
Here we go.
It's released next month. Emma Dallymore, 7 News.
Can't wait for that. Sports next with Tim Watson, and Tim, tomorrow's looming as Vaccine D-Day for the AFL.
Mitch, we're live with the details of an important decision facing all players. Also, the Hawks come clean and make no apologies on a messy trade period, but there's trouble brewing for Jeff Kennett. New docker Jordan Clark quizzed on whether there's bad blood with the Cats. The Magpies make the hard call to delist a youngster. But is Mason Cox safe, and will Pekoski's bitter blow ahead of the Ashes? Welcome back. The AFL is bracing for one of their toughest challenges this off-season. Live to Chief Football Reporter Tom Brown. And Tom, tomorrow is a crucial day.
Tim, it is an early test. There are a small number of players across the competition that haven't been vaxxed, and staff. It came up at the CEO's meeting. Tomorrow's the Victorian deadline for the first dose. It's particularly relevant for the AFLW. The players are currently training and will need to be vaxxed. A leading AFLW agent telling me today offline they are hoping that any players pivot tonight so it doesn't become an issue. But the AFL follows the government guidelines. So if a player or staff member isn't vaxxed when they arrive at the club tomorrow, they can't come into the club. The position is clear. Meantime, Tim, tonight, Hawthorn has defended not organising trades for their big-name players much earlier, explaining they didn't want to create the impression at all they wanted to push any of these players out of the club.
The Hawks don't think Sam Mitchell needs to repair relationships. The fact Mitchell walks his dogs with the likes of Tom Mitchell, a case in point.
Yeah, not at all. I think the best thing about, especially the last couple of weeks, is we've been very open. Sam's been very open with the playing group.
The Giants confirmed Hawthorn was prepared to help pay for Wingard and Bruce to leave.
I can't go into specifics about actual in-depth conversations because it really didn't get to that extent.
But Hawk sources have defended their strategy, explaining they invited clubs to propose offers and they put it to the player. Bruce and Wingard chose to stay on less security and less money, which is actually a positive.
But we're pretty comfortable with the way we went about our list management strategy. Yes, could we have improved our draft end? Who knows from that end?
Off-field, Jeff Kennett's presidency is being put to the test. Coterie groups have launched hawksforchange.org. Upset Hawthorn's paying Alistair Clarkson $1 million next year not to coach. It's now supported by 2 past premiership players, Jamie Morrissey and Bruce Stevenson. Kennett thinks it's political, and because of the pokies, which the Hawks president has told 7 News he'll sell when the time is right. Tom Brown, 7 News.
Jordan Clark says there's no bad blood with his old club Geelong. The new docker cleared the air on a controversial phone call for a trade that almost happened 12 months ago before the skipper stepped in.
Unveiled at Fremantle today, Jordan Clark moved to clear up his last-ditch trade bid to Cats list boss Stephen Wells.
There was a phone call, but there was no angst amongst the phone call, and I certainly didn't hang up.
It was a terrific conversation. We've got a lot of respect for Jordan, and there's no demands or anything like that.
The speedster confirming he explored the trade last year before Joel Selwood changed his mind.
Joel was a big influence of mine. I sat down with him last year, and he was the one that helped me out, and I just said I'm not going, and that was that.
Clark's move capped a busy deadline day for the Cats, clinching Hawthorn ruckman Jonathan Segler with the help of ex-teammate Isaac Smith.
He kept telling me how great the place was all year I spoke to him, and so that was probably the big draw card, having him there as well.
His deal part of the ruck domino, with Darcy Fort moving to Brisbane, Hawthorn footing part of Segler's switch to open up Max Lynch's arrival at Waverley Park, and Mason Cox to win a reprieve in black and white.
Yeah, we'd like Mason to stay, but that's certainly up to him, and he may have some options around that as well.
After not being offered a contract, Pies forward Josh Thomas announced his retirement today, with Braden sides listed, joining a host of players seeking new homes, including Trent Dumont, Levi Casbolt, Charlie Constable, Jack Loney and David Zaharakis. And tomorrow marks the deadline for clubs to submit their requests for the 2022 fixture due out in late November. Richmond do again ask for all 11 home games at the MCG. Essendon looking to mark its 150th year anniversary in a key game against Carlton. North Melbourne looking to host Good Friday again, while Melbourne may have to split its gate takings with Collingwood. The Pies open to splitting that, given the Demons missed the Queen's birthday game this year. Tim?
Thanks, Mitch. Alastair Clarkson has joined the fight for an AFL team in Tasmania. The former Hawks coach will spend the next 4 months in the US visiting a number of professional clubs. He'll work on funding, stadium development and talent identification.
We've got to have a team from Tassie in our national comp, so that's a long way down the track. It needs a lot of research and a lot of preparation for that, but I'd love to play a little role in that in the next 12 months.
Clarkson's appointment will be for 6 months before the Commission and all 18 clubs cast a vote on a Tassie team. There are fresh concerns tonight for Will Pekoski after yet another head knock. The rising Victorian star is reportedly still showing concussion symptoms after being hit in the head by a ball last week. It's the 10th concussion Pekoski has suffered at just 23 years of age. After making his Test debut last summer, Pekoski was set to be David Warner's opening partner for the Ashes. Some of Sydney's best jockeys have been given the green light to descend on Melbourne. They'll pick up key rides in the Cox Plate. James McDonald, Hugh Bowman and Glenn Boss among the handful who'll need negative COVID test and to quarantine for 6 days. McDonald is looking to ride favourite Zaki, while Boss is set to reunite with last year's winner, Sir Dragonet. Mitch, and they may get a little bit of bog to ride around into the weekend too, the jockeys. Not those, because they won't be riding this weekend, but the ones that will be available this weekend.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Tim. Jane will have more on that next. There's more rain on the way, Jane.
Mitch, there is indeed. Now, that is tomorrow night, and it could bring some big falls. So I'll show you which suburbs are at risk next.
Hello tonight on the latest from 7 News. Every development on the wild weather system ripping across Australia's southeast. The global petrol crisis to reach our shores, when it will hit and how much it'll push up prices. And America's Most Wanted, the former Florida homicide detective who says he knows where Gabby Petito's killer is. We'll have the latest from 7 News tonight at 10:30.
Melissa Caddick was my wife. I can't keep silent any longer.
She defrauded millions and millions, then vanished.
It's time for the truth to come out.
What Australia has heard so far is just the tip of the iceberg.
I know why she died.
Go inside the mansion.
Doesn't get much better than this.
No.
Inside the money trail.
How much money did you give her?
$2 million.
Who is Melissa to you?
My sister.
But who would want to murder Melissa?
Someone got greedy and wanted her dead.
The discovery right here on this beach should have answered a lot of questions.
The most extraordinary mystery of our time.
All this coastline, for it to be found by anyone, is quite extraordinary.
It's beyond me.
Did you murder your wife?
7 News Spotlight investigates Melissa Caddick, The Vanishing. Sunday at 7 on 7.
Hello again. As expected, much of Melbourne was in a dry break today, but there are lots of thunderstorms in Victoria and we've had a funnel. This appeared over Stawell Secondary College around lunchtime today, close to touching the ground. Here's how it looks. Fog cleared out to sunshine before storm clouds bubbled up. They're unorganised, hit and miss showers and thunderstorms. They move in a clockwise direction as there is a low to our northwest. The storms can bring a lot of hail. This was in Birchip this afternoon. The Oval turned white. And storms in this part of Gippsland down in through here bring heavy rain. One produced nearly 40 millimetres in 20 minutes, nearly 30 millimetres in Traralgon. The city gradually changed from bright sunshine to a sea of cumulus. We reached a pleasant top of 19 after 15 millimetres of rain overnight. In the Melbourne area, most had a dry day, but there is activity in eastern suburbs coming in through here, coming in as far as Oakley and Moorabbin, but not inner parts. There could be a bit more of that this evening. We're under the influence of a very complex area of low pressure. You'll count several low pressure centres stumbling around over the southeast, moving in circles. Now, one of these lows will settle in over Tasmania tomorrow, and that will have a big impact on Melbourne. So tonight, the hit and miss thunderstorm activity continues, mostly avoiding inner Melbourne, but a risk in much of the rest of the state. There is an easing tomorrow morning before the next main event. That low over Tasmania will push this steady rain across central parts up into the northeast. That's later Friday and on Saturday. Now, all of that puts all these catchments on flood watch, including parts of Melbourne. Across the suburbs, we're still likely to see another 10 to 50 millimetres of rain. Around the nation tomorrow, these complex lows continue to bring wet weather from Brisbane right through to Hobart across to Adelaide. In Victoria, areas of rain in the northeast in the morning, you can see it in through there, otherwise the odd shower elsewhere. Then it intensifies. Steady rain develops over the southwest and central districts in the afternoon and evening, and that could bring heavy falls. Closer in the morning is generally dry. The afternoon has showers developing, lots of them. Then the evening is wet with steady rain. Now this will continue well into Saturday, bringing 10 to 50 millimetres across town. Look how blue it is. The heaviest falls are in northeastern suburbs, anywhere near the ranges. That's where the 50 millimetres is. The city cool and cloudy for your Friday 16. Showers develop in the afternoon and it turns to steady rain at night. In the outlook, that steady rain continues into Saturday morning. Then lots of showers in the afternoon. It'll finally ease back on Saturday night after another top of 16. After that, on Sunday, it's 18, still the odd shower in the morning, then sunny breaks in the afternoon. That is dry and should be feeling much nicer. A little bit of cloud to start the week, then temperatures rapidly jump up. 27 degrees in bright sunshine next Wednesday. And as we possibly come out of lockdown, there could be a bit of wet weather. Cool tomorrow, turning wet with steady rain at night into Saturday, Mitch.
OK, Jane, thank you very much indeed. Now, here's what's on Sunrise in the morning.
Thanks, Mitch. In the morning, the world's funniest man, Billy Connolly, joins us in a major exclusive.
See you tomorrow, Melbourne.
And that's the way it is this Thursday, the 14th of October. Thanks for your company. For now, from the 7 News team, good night.